Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie, and I just wanted to give you a quick little message from one of our sponsors, Element. It's spelled LMNT, but pronounced Element. If you haven't heard about this, Element is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means there's a lot of salt with no sugar, and it's formulated to help anyone with their electrolyte needs and is perfectly suited for those doing a keto, low carb, or paleo diet. And I think this is great for athletes, especially in the summertime and when you're training in warmer climates. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. None of the junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers. That's it. I like the unsweetened one because the other flavors do have a little stevia, but stevia doesn't do well in my body. So I prefer the unsweetened Element, and I like the packets because I can throw them in my bike bag when I go on a long bike ride or when traveling, and I can just dump a packet in my water, and it keeps me so much more hydrated. Because remember, we don't sweat out water, we sweat out minerals. So check it out. You've got a nice little gift from them if you use our discount code Drink Element. I'll put the link in the show notes. But using the code Low Carb Athlete, you get a free gift with purchase. You get a free Element sample pack with any order when you order with Low Carb Athlete on our special URL code. So support the podcast, support Element. It's backed by science, and we love what they're doing. So try it out. Hey everyone, it's Debbie, and I just wanted to give you a little more of a formal intro to our guest today, Mark Allen. And I wanted to have his episode out this week because it is, as we release this, the week of Ironman Hawaii 2022. And if you know about Mark Allen, you are probably a part of the triathlon community and know his history. But just in case you do not know who Mark Allen is, he is a legend in our industry. So, who is Mark? Let's read his bio. No triathlete has gained the recognition or success that Mark Allen has. After competing and losing in the IRONMAN Triathlon World Championships in his first 6 attempts, he emerged in a victorious 1989 race, winning the most difficult one-day sporting event in the world. It would be the first of 6 Ironman World Championships that Mark Allen has won, the last coming in 1995 at age 37, making him the oldest champion ever at that time. He also excelled at the Olympic distance, winning the sport's inaugural Olympic distance World Championships in 1989, Avignon, France. He went undefeated in 10 trips to Nice International Triathlon from 1988 to 1990. He put together a winning streak of 21 consecutive victories. Now, over the course of his 15-year racing career, which ended in 1996, Mark maintained a 90% average in top 3 finishes. He was named the Triathlete of the Year 6 times by Triathlete Magazine. And in 1997, I remember this, the Outside magazine tabbed him as the world's fittest man. Do you remember him on the cover? I do. 1997. His most recent sports accolade came in November of 2012 when he was voted the greatest endurance athlete of all time in a worldwide poll conducted by ESPN. Now, since retiring from competition, Mark shares his stories of Ironman racing with corporate audiences worldwide. He has a triathlon coaching service used in over 50 countries through his markallencoaching.com. And he's an award-winning author along with Brant Sakuda for the groundbreaking book Fit Soul, Fit Body. We did a podcast years ago about that. I think it was when the show was called Fit Fat Fast. So you can check it out on my podcast archives. You can find them all, hopefully, on debbiepotts.net under podcast. But the Fit Soul, Fit Body book is the 9 keys to a healthier, happier you. They used to have workshops around the area in different parts of the country, and I'm not sure if he still has those, but I always wanted to go. Mark's other book, the most recent book called The Art of Competition, I do have a copy of that, was released in August of 2014. And we did interview him about that because I was at Ironman Hawaii with him that year and got a copy, pre-ordered that one. It's an amazing book. The book's core is comprised of 90 quotes he wrote that give him a very thought-provoking look at competition, overcoming challenge, and achieving personal excellence. So it's a great coffee table book to get because it's very beautiful. It's paired with a stunning photo from nature and displayed in 2-page spread. So check that out. Mark's links are markallenspeaking.com, markallencoaching.com. And today we're going to talk about his TriDot coaching. You can find out more about his new coaching program with TriDot at tridot.com/mark-allen-edition. And they also have a premium coaching plan with Mark you can check out as well. Hey everyone, it's Debbie and I'm back again to do another podcast. I swear I've had a recording almost every day last couple weeks, and it's so much fun to record podcasts, and especially with my guest today who I've known, oh my gosh, I was just thinking 20 years. Somehow I started Ironman Canada was my first race in 2001. And my last Ironman North America was in 2012. And my first Ironman Hawaii, I qualified for, I think it was 2004 or 5. And then my last one was 2012. And if you want to know what's happened 2013 to 2022, you can go back and listen to the beginning podcast or find my book on Amazon. That is me sharing my journey and what happened to me so I can help you avoid going through what happened. And starting in 2013, my book's called Life is Not a Race, It is a Journey, and how chronic stress can impact the whole you from the inside out. So my guest is my coach that I had in 2000. I think I started doing the coaching program in 2003 or 2002. I started Ironman Canada 01, maybe 03, 04. And then I joined the elite team in 2004 and raced on and off with this elite team, triathlon team for Ironman until I was retiring. Took some time off because I thought I would try to get pregnant, and that never happened. Probably because of what happened later is adrenal exhaustion, HPA axis dysfunction leads to metabolic chaos, leads to hormone dysregulation and all sorts of problems. So my guest today is my coach, Mark Allen. And you might have heard of him if you've been a part of Ironman community, and history of Ironman is Mark Allen, Dave Scott back in the day. And here on the website, you can see, if you're watching the video, markallensports.com. You can learn all about his coaching, life coaching, motivational speaking. And today we're going to talk about TriDot and his coaching program and a little bit more. So he's been on my show over the years since I've had this podcast, you may not know, for 10 years. And it used to be called Fit Fat Fast. Talking with John Smith was the co-host, and we talked about how you can burn more fat by eating fat 10 years ago. And I talked a lot about metabolic efficiency testing and had Mark Allen on the show many times. So TriDot is this program I keep getting emails on, and I was curious. And then I saw Mark was using it for his coaching platform. So we're going to talk to Mark about that. how it is a personalized program, calculating your swim, bike, and run workouts, and how it can help us simplify training and looking at your race goals and all that. So that's what we're doing today. Back in the years I started doing Mark Allen coaching program in 2002 or 3, whatever it was, I started to qualify for Ironman Hawaii. I was doing the low heart rate training way back when, and I was already doing heart rate training. I'm really sounding old, but Sally Edwards, where I used to work at the Bellevue Club, Bellevue, Washington, we did heart zone training and Danskin coaching for the beginning triathlon we had once upon a time, and was already into heart rate training and maffetone training, max aerobic function, MAF heart rate formula. We will probably all know about the 180 minus your age. And Mark Allen, of course, if you know the history of Phil Maffetone and Mark Allen, you can go back and find information and podcasts and videos on how Maffetone trained Mark Allen and how Mark created that aerobic engine, doing that 80% low intensity heart rate, and then strategically adding in that higher intensity quality key speed sessions. Now, I've been doing the Endure IQ program the past few months, doing the courses on Endure IQs for the 101 and the 201. I still need to do the 2 others, but it's for endurance athletes, triathletes specifically, doing low carb, high fat training and fueling and training. And it's a great overview of how Dr. Dan Plews has researched and fine-tuned the low carb athlete for endurance racing based on his experience and his research studies and metabolic testing. And if you're curious to learn more, I'll put that in the show notes if my assistants will remember, enduriq.com, I think it is. And then we'll talk to Mark more, his coaching program, but how he might do the 80-20 program, if it's low carb, if it's train low, race high, and how do we match our fueling and training, as I like to ask everyone. And as well as how do we work on reduce those sources of external stressors, those energy robbers in your life, and then those hidden internal stressors I talk about all the time that you don't know about unless you test. So, starting point is, I did a little video the other day on getting your blood chemistry tests from your doctor and working with a practitioner as myself or another FDN practitioner, where we can take those values from your doctor and let's put them in a shorter range for optimal and functional medicine. And looking at those high and low numbers, what does that mean? What's the indication of? So we can find a lot of internal hidden stressors. That way we might be impacting the hormones, immune system, detoxification, digestion, energy systems, and nervous systems. So I like to look at helping the athlete be fit and healthy from the inside out, as well as happy, looking at the holistic method. Now, Mark Allen, I would use for creating great training programs. And so we'll talk to him about that and see how TriDot platform works. But Mark is absolutely amazing. And I always keep in touch with him and send him messages to get down here at Solana Beach. So we'll talk about that. Ironman Hawaii, I'm not getting to this year in 2022. I was going to go. I usually go and like to be a part of the events and cheer on people that I know racing, and my old Mark Allen elite team. I know Diana Hassel and some other people, and Carrie Craig, they're still racing, and there's a big community there that gets to be your annual family at Ironman in the community. And I always love it. So I will be there 2023. Sounds like space age, but 2022 is a little bit chaotic. I think this year to be going, it'll be super crowded on the island and way too many people. So I didn't really want to go. Honestly, it's a female only race on the Thursday. They have to, set up everything, close the town down and tear it all down, and then do it all over again for the regular race on Saturday, but that will be men's only. So it'll be an interesting year to watch online. And if you're there, have a great time, but just be ready for getting those street bikes out there and not renting a car, and just, getting the bike that you pay by the minute kind of thing. Those are great to go on a Leahy Drive and just hang out there and just don't get in your car and just walk or bike. So what Mark's done for me is a lot of the working on your inner soul. He over the years that fit body, fit soul. And I think that's an important part of my journey is learning how to, be in nature, find my happy place, and really learn how to manage your stressors and doing some breathing exercises. I've never actually gone to his training. We'll ask if he's still doing them, but I think, just any spiritual connection you can. I know Ben Greenfield does this a lot in his programs that we do nowadays. And I find I didn't know I was that unhappy and that stressed out until I left my life as I knew it in Bellevue, Washington during COVID. Just after COVID started, we decided we can live anywhere, and we wanted to always live in North San Diego, and sold the house in a week and moved in June 2020 and been here since. So I am just happy living a good outdoor life, and, we call it the quality of life move. So point I'm rambling about is that to be a fit and healthy and happy athlete, it is working on the whole you, the holistic method, and really not just focusing on just your training, but are you recovering well? Are you having fun and time with your family? Are you laughing? Are you measuring your heart rate variability to see if you're bouncing back? And are you eating the right foods? I think so much of us are in that energy deficit that we're burning so many calories, not taking in enough because we're trying to do fasted workouts, trying to do low carb, high fat and get our protein in. But then and I did this and I'm trying to switch this, is not eating enough. And so that can contribute to additional stress, but really looking at your training schedule from a holistic approach, that if you want to be the best athlete and the best version of yourself now and your future self, we really want to work on all these elements I talk about. So here's Mark. Let me bring him in and we'll talk shop with him. Hold on. All right. I have Mr. Mark Allen on the podcast. It's been a few years since you've been on the show, but thanks for making time for me today to get you back on here and to talk shop.
I know. It's been too long, huh?
You've been doing your Monday show. You've got a big following on your social media. You've been doing, what do you call it?
Mondays with Mark Allen.
Oh yeah,
and
simple.
It's on YouTube, and I put it on my Instagram channel, Mark Allen Grip. And sometimes it's tips on stuff. Sometimes it's just random thoughts. Sometimes it's interviews with people. And so anyway, it's just kind of like whatever's going on, and I like to, it's been fun because I think it kind of came out of COVID when, people were not doing things in person. And so it's like, I want to be putting stuff out there and feel like I'm at least communicating with people. And so we started doing that, Mondays with Mark Allen. And then I also have, going into Kona right now, Road to Kona. I did a Road to St. George for the World Championships that they just had there in May. And that was a little bit easier to get athletes to engage and do interviews with them and lead up into the race. But Kona, pinning down a professional triathlete is almost impossible. I've had a number of them say, "Oh, I just don't have the time," and I get it. Yeah. I get it. I mean, it will be the first Ironman World Championship in Hawaii since 2019, 3 years.
Yeah.
So, there's been a lot of changes, I think, in the makeup of the top folks. The young people, they really, they had some time to just sit back and train and try to figure stuff out. And obviously they have. It's like a whole new generation winning. Chris Blumenfeld and, Gustav Eden in the men. And, Daniela's still up there, of course. But it'll be interesting to see if, let's say, for example, Anna Haug can come back and defend. Yeah. She's actually the returning Kona champion, even though she's not the current Ironman World Champ because Daniela won in May. But anyway,
yeah, it's hard to calculate like the years and then what does that really count? But you want it to count because it lasts a few years. I'm sure for them they want to be the Ironman Hawaii, but not in Hawaii championship and what just scratch the last 3 years. And so this year is going to be kind of crazy because I was just saying in the intro is that the women are all on Thursday. So the pro women go first, then the age groupers, and then the men are on Saturday. So it'll be pretty busy in town.
Yeah. I mean, basically there will be twice the number of athletes racing because they're going to pack that pier both days. So you've got twice the number of athletes racing, twice the number of entourages who are following the athletes and helping and supporting the athletes. And then I think the really interesting and challenging piece is going to be the impact on the local community to have things shut down for that many days.
Yeah, no, I've already heard that from people that live there.
Yeah. And then, the second thing is just the people who are volunteering and actually working. I mean, it's to have 2 days of racing for the 70.3 worlds. It's a lot, but it's, you're done each day by whatever, 5 or 6, 2 full Ironman distance races in 3 days. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. I know. I was saying I'm not going this year because it's going to be so crazy. And I know Jerry Rott, the race director of Avignon, she was like, I'm heading out of town. Everyone there seems to be leaving, and they're renting her car and her house and her condo because Ironman needs all the help that they can get. So it's going to be crazy, but exciting to be all back there. Cause I love to go, as you know, I'm always there, even if I'm not racing, and just as like see your annual community of our, friends that are there every year. You just don't see people unless you all go. There's so many races now. So it's always good time to be there. But this year I'll have to watch from online, but I'm sure it'll be busy. So how do you keep track of all the athletes? Like you're at all the races now, you're helping broadcast or finish line, or what are you doing?
It's pretty easy to follow a lot of the key races just because a lot of them are streamed live. So big Ironman races, the PTO races, like PTO US Open in Dallas last weekend, streamed live. So it's not quite the same as being there in person and watching, but you can get a pretty good feel for who people are and how they're racing and how they like to race, and maybe expectations that they have or you think they at levels that they can be at, but maybe they're not. And so then that begs the question, well, what's going on with that athlete? Like, in Dallas, I think Lionel Sanders was 21st. So it's like, what happened there? The guy's a badass, and he should be one of the top tier people. And maybe something went wrong. I don't know. But anyway, just interesting. Yeah, you can follow, as you know, with social media and live streaming and everything going on now. You don't have to be at races to kind of keep a good pulse on things. No,
I don't mean be there, but just like how to keep track of everyone. There's just so many different athletes as these new people coming in, and then the older end.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't feel like I know everybody at all. There's names that appear in the top 5 or top 10. Like, wait a minute, where did this person come from? And so I have to go and look and search and see what their history is. So no, it's very hard because there are more races, more opportunities, more pros, more young people coming up. And without having really huge key events year after year after year because of, COVID, a lot of them have slipped through my cracks anyway, as far as keeping track of them. So,
So with the athletes that you've been coaching a long time, and obviously you've been an athlete for a long time, and really learning how to master the endurance sport, as Ironman specifically, how do you see people training nowadays? Do you see a trend in doing the training low heart rate, the max aerobic function, maffetone type of stuff we've talked about for years, and then adding in speed work? Do you think people are still overtraining? How do you notice and pay attention to that? How people train and recover and prepare for races?
I don't think there's any one sort of general philosophy that's being followed specifically. Some people are super dialed into doing a lot of aerobic training and a little bit of speed work, so the more the maffetone, and other folks, especially people that don't have a lot of time to train, have tended to lean a little bit more toward having a little bit more percentage of their training be higher quality, even though their total volume is a lot less because they just don't have the time to do it. And they also seem to be getting equally good results. So, there's more than one way to
skin a cat.
Skin a cat. Yeah, I knew there was something with a cat. I couldn't remember what it was. There's more than one way to feed a cat, tickle a cat, comb its hair. I don't know what it is, but anyway, in that cat. Ow! But
so, anyway, with how do you're coaching people, and we'll talk to you share about TriDot, but what's your philosophy training? I was sharing the intro. I think it's 2002 or 2003, the Mark Allen coaching program. And we did a lot of low heart rate, and then we added in speed work. And then I started qualifying for Hawaii. And so what's your philosophy? Is it still the same? And how are you implementing into TriDot?
Yeah, my philosophy is basically the same, with the exception that I can see that I have seen over the years that the ideal sort of maffetone, aerobic base, a little bit of speed work type of training philosophy works, one, if you have a lot of time to train, and also if you're also diligent with your strength work, because you're not working your muscles quite at the same level as you do when you do harder training. You know, the harder training is higher stress on your body, so you can't do as much of it. But anyway, so if people are trying to stick to, you know, doing a lot of aerobic training, a little bit of speed work, but they don't have a lot of time to train, you know, they just won't be getting in sort of enough volume of training to get those big, strong changes in fitness that you're searching for. If you have a lot of time to train and you can do a lot of those longer, more steady workouts, for sure it will work. And then if you also are diligent with speed work, you're going to have the muscular integrity while you're doing that base training, so that when you do go faster in races or throw in your speed work, your muscles are going to work right. If you're not doing the strength work along with it, you just end up kind of having this mono speed that you can go, and you can never go up to that next level. So it depends on what an athlete likes to do and has time to do and is committed to doing in their training. I have found that a lot of triathletes, you know, they might do a core workout, or, you know, some kind of little body weight functional strength thing, but they're not consistent with it. And when they're not consistent with it, if they're actually supplementing that with a little bit of, you know, harder training, then they still get good results. And if they don't overdo the total volume of training that they're doing, they're going to be able to absorb it. But it's a fine line. And so that's where actually TriDot comes in, because they have their founder, Jeff Boer, he's been coaching athletes for many years, and he's very analytical with everything. And he's really just tracked how different kinds of training affect people's fitness and performance. And, you know, looking at stuff, and he's created a lot of algorithms that factor in so many different aspects of the data that we're able to collect nowadays, that can go into actually continually helping an athlete's training plan be fine-tuned as they go through their season. So sort of one way that I like to describe it is, like if I was to compare 1980, you know, the 1980s triathlon training versus the 2020s triathlon training, it's sort of like if you look at medicine, you know, the old doctor would show up at your house with a stethoscope and stick it on your chest and say, okay, now breathe, now cough. And that's the tool that they had to try to figure out what was going on. Well, obviously, you're not going to find as much stuff as you will nowadays when you can stick somebody and get, let's say, an MRI on their knee or their shoulder or whatever, and see what's really going on inside. So with all of the data that we have now, I was finding it difficult to feel like as a coach, I was able to sort of assimilate enough of it in there to actually really utilize it in a way that made sense, not only for me, but then to help keep fine-tuning an athlete's training plan. With TriDot, that is what's taking place. And so it's been a super cool move for me to move all of my athletes and to move my training platform over there. And it's not just about numbers, though, also, because TriDot has a huge, they have a huge social following in their Facebook page, and people are very supportive of each other. And you know, hey, I'm coming to, you know, Milwaukee for USAT Nationals. Is anybody else going to be there? You know, that kind of thing. And
community.
So you're even if you maybe do a lot of your training on your own, you feel like you're part of this community, and it's just really fun. And so it's exciting for me to be involved with it.
You know, that's a key thing you just said, because triathlon can be such a solo sport and you're alone if you're not training with people. Because if you're doing the lower heart rate training, you can't do group rides and go by your heart rate very well. You know, you're probably cheating if you are. Like I would always have to just train with a couple other people, and that it's okay if we're spread all apart. But, you know, you're by yourself a lot. So I think finding that team feeling, a community is so essential for a sport as triathlon is, that you need to have that connection with other people and have the social events. Like I joined San Diego Tri Club, they have events all the time, because I think when you're on your training or in a race, you're kind of by yourself. So it's nice to be able to meet people that way and feel looking forward to seeing them in person that you're talking to online is good.
Yeah. Like, you know, when I trained, I had my handful of training partners that I did a lot of my training with. And yes, I was trying to get faster and trying to improve my performance and all of that. But the real thing that I loved was just meeting my training partners for the key workouts and doing them together. And it became sort of like an exploratory adventure, because we were all trying to get better and trying to sort of help each other get better and trying new things and running ideas by each other. And, you know, I think probably most triathletes, even though they might be a little more solitary than some other sport oriented folks, like if you're a football player, you're team oriented, right? Yeah. But ultimately triathlon is a team also. You have your team of training partners, you have your team of family members who for sure are probably going to pick up some of the slack when you get really focused on a big race that's coming up. And yeah, it's just pretty cool.
Which is why, again, I like to go to Ironman Hawaii, because it's like annual reunion with everyone. And some crazy people like Diana Hassel, they're still racing probably every year, that don't get exhausted, and Carrie Craig. So it's always fun to see people. So with training, as we age and we are busy and chronic stress is always an issue for people, is the formula options when you're creating programs for people, like the minimal effective dose, like going shorter workouts on the weekdays when people are working a lot and going longer in the weekend? Do you look at that for people when you're creating a program for how many hours a week that they have available and how to make it most effective? Because so many people are so busy already.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's one of the things, and one of the key sort of questions that you have to answer and try it out when training plans are being set up is, how much time do you have to train? You know, let's be realistic here. And if you've got 10 to 12 hours a week, then we're going to train you 10 to 12 hours a week. We're not going to try to throw in an 18 to 20 hour week or a 24 hour week, because you just don't have that time. And triathlon should reduce the stress in your life. It should be something that enhances your health, enhances your sense of well-being. And if you're trying to cram in hours more of training, even though maybe it is ideal, but your life is not set up to be a pro triathlete, you got to be realistic. And so try it out is definitely, you know, that's one of the key questions that gets asked. And so it helps optimize people's training based on the reality of their life. Or some people probably overestimate, you know, what they can put in, but over time they'll start to see like, oh yeah, okay, I am stressing myself out. I'm not getting enough sleep. And, you know, one of the things that you just sort of threw out there was, as people get older, things change. And, you know, that's definitely something that I'm tuned into now, because I'm going to be on Medicare in a couple months, you know, because I'll be 65. You know, like, you're an old dude. Like, oh, where's my cane? You know, but and so I'm trying to figure out, how do I optimize this journey as I continue on now into, you know, what is well into the second half of my life, right? Yeah. And it's interesting that so many of the principles that are going to get somebody really fast and fit when they're 30 are also the same things that are going to help you out as you are getting older. But the key things become more important. So what are some of those key things? Well, one of them, you know, as you age, you have to, recovery becomes an issue, obviously. You know, you're going to need a little more time for recovery, and supporting that through increasing the percent of your diet that is from protein, because your body has a harder time assimilating protein. And, that can be one issue that triathletes have, is they're just not getting enough good quality protein so that their muscles that are breaking down in training get rebuilt, and they're building up into a stronger, better athlete. Second thing is, absolutely, as you age, strength training is such a key element. You can swim, bike, and run until the cows come home, but you're going to lose lean muscle if you don't do strength training. But if you do strength training, you can maintain so much of that strength that you had even 20, 30 years ago. Yeah. And so that's something that I'm pretty religious about, is my strength training that I still do.
You look pretty buff, by the way. I've seen some videos with is it the mirror, or what's your?
Oh, tonal.
Tonal, sorry. All the workouts. You're ripped, man. 65 you're looking like 55.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was in the grocery store today, and every Tuesday and Thursday at the health food store that I shop at, it's Seniors Day, and you have to be 65 to get the senior discount. Today's Thursday, so it's one of the discount days. And you're supposed to show your ID. And so I bought a bunch of groceries, and I checked out, and I looked up, and the guy had just not even asked me what my age is or anything. He'd already given me the senior discount. I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, I should be offended.
Wait a minute, dude. You think I'm over 65? Well, dang. Yeah. I thought I looked better than that. But anyway, so.
Everyone gets it. You just should have told you that. Everyone gets a discount to come in the store.
So anyway, good quality sleep is so important as you age, for recovery, so that your brain works, so that your brain gets flushed and refreshed at night, and your muscles can repair. Strength work, as I mentioned, also, and then added a higher percentage of your diet coming from protein, so that you can actually have the raw materials to rebuild your muscles that need repair. And then another piece that's really interesting for people as they age is, you still need to do speed work. And if you do the right amount of speed work, you can maintain a VO2 max that is very, very high. That will not fall off as much as you might think. And older people get a lot more changes in their mitochondria, the little powerhouse cells, parts of your cell that generates energy. They get bigger changes in their mitochondria for speed work than somebody who's younger. So a younger person has to do a lot more speed work to get the same changes in their mitochondria, which is basically kind of how you are able to keep going faster and faster and faster. But the challenge as you age is that you just can't manage as many weeks of speed work before you fall off the edge again, And so a young person might be able to handle, who knows what, 10, 12, 15 weeks in a row of doing some pretty good quality speed work before they start to overdo it and get overtrained, and they have to back it down. An older person, how old is old? I don't know, 50, 55, 65, whatever. They might only be able to handle 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks of doing higher intensity speed work before they start to get that overtrained, fatigued feeling. And so, if you are tuned into your body and are kind of just listening and seeing how you're responding, seeing how you're recovering, you can sort of balance that, going back and forth between the higher intensity stuff and then going back into a little more base work. So those are some of the things that take place as you're aging.
Yeah.
And then the last piece, and this is super interesting for me, is that they've done a lot of research recently and found that swimming and cycling, you can maintain almost a lot of that same speed and strength that you had for those sports as you had when you were younger. So the fall off in performance in cycling and running cycling and swimming is very gradual as you age. However, the fall off in running is a little bit steeper.
Big for me, really steep angle.
Yeah, big steep angle, right? And so that begs the question, why? What's going on? And some of the really cool research is showing that the muscles that start to go first in people as they age, that seem to get weaker quicker, are your feet and ankle and calf muscles. And those are the ones that you need to run fast, right? And so, think about a young person, just even the way they walk, they're strutting and their foot is articulating and their toes are moving and their ankle is moving and they're activating all of those lower leg muscles. Mm-hmm. But then you think about, grandma or grandpa who looks like they're walking on blocks and they're not articulating their feet at all. They're not moving their ankle. They're not activating those muscles. And so that's something that I have been emphasizing for my folks that I coach who are getting up there in age and who are feeling like, geez, I can't run like I used to. I say, walk like a teenager, articulate your feet. When you go for a run, move your feet, move your ankle, articulate them, and do balance work to strengthen those muscles. And as you do that, if you articulate your feet and move and, flex and use your ankle, you're also going to be working that calf muscle. And as you do that, then you can maintain a lot of that strength that's required to continue to run fast. So that's your training tip for the next whatever
20 years. I know. I find that I just saw this chiropractor guy and my ankles were so tight because I was like, I'm on a mission because my running performance is like the steep hill. And I've been trying to do all this, Stacy Sims research, the short intensity intervals for women, 20, 30 seconds, and doing the knees over the toes guy video, trying to do his backwards walking and backwards hill running and going on the beach and doing stuff. And so I'm trying everything that I read about, but it is, it's like that constant fight with hormones for females and how you have to eat more protein and lift heavier weights. Like I'll do 3 to 6 repetitions. I'm not, 10 to 15 reps is not what I do. And I just lift heavier. And I think it's just for women, especially as we age, we have to really fight the loss of hormones and embrace the aging process, not blame it, but change how we train. And so we are eating protein throughout the day. And that's what I think I've talked a lot about on this podcast recently, because I think we got stuck into doing all this fasted exercise, fasted training. And then we're doing 1 or 2 meals a day and we're exercising 3 times a day. And so we're having this energy deficit that we're not, I guess called energy flux is a new word I keep hearing about. We're not getting enough energy in because we're not, we're training and we're moving around, we're doing stuff, but we're just not getting enough protein in. And I'm really been trying that myself too, because it's hard because you're not hungry and you're busy. And you're like, oh yeah, I barely eaten today. And it's you got to work it.
And like Stacy Sims says about women, we are not small men, and I really love the research that she's been doing, and just the fact that she's putting it out there. Like, especially as women, when women go through menopause, we're not like guys. We can't train. We have different things that we have to be very specific attending to if we're going to keep our health and performance up there. One of the things with protein, in my opinion anyway, that can be a challenge is that, as we age, it gets harder and harder for our bodies to metabolize carbohydrate, because over our lifetime, every time you eat carbohydrate, your body releases a little insulin so that it stores it away, and so that it's, stores it as glycogen. And then if you eat a lot, then it gets stored as fat. But insulin is a little bit toxic to our cells. And so over our lifetime, our cell membranes slowly get a little bit harder because that keeps the insulin from getting in. So as you get older, it gets harder and harder to metabolize carbohydrate. And so that can set somebody up for eating more carbohydrate to sort of, get their energy up. And then next thing you know, if you start getting into that carbohydrate cycle, then your body's not searching for protein. It's searching for carbohydrate to get your blood sugar up because your body's having a problem metabolizing it. To sort of counter that, as not restricting severely our carbohydrate intake, but just keeping it very moderate. And then also just really making sure that you are doing some aerobic exercise, because aerobic as opposed to anaerobic increases your cells' sensitivity to insulin. So it helps counter that natural thing over a lifetime where we get less sensitive to insulin, we got to release more, and it's harder to metabolize carbohydrate. So if you are doing aerobic workouts, walking, moderate jogging, easy, moderate swimming, whatever it is, you're helping your body to stay sensitive to insulin, which means you can still manage carbohydrates. And if you manage carbohydrates well, then you're also going to probably be wanting to have some of that protein. So it's a positive feedback.
Yeah, I think, I always talk on the show that people go all or none. They get into the keto world and fasted exercise and think just eat tons of fat, all carbs are bad. And then they get into fasted exercise that I'm not eating anything. I'm going to go for this long ride and long run. And I think we create a little more problems sometimes if we keep doing that too much. And then, not focusing on the protein. And I think it gets confusing. We keep talking about what are carbohydrates, to eat and when to eat them, that they're nature's carbohydrates and real food sources. So getting rid of the processed foods, the refined oils, the vegetable oils, and the refined sugars is what we talk about. Eat real food that's nutrient dense, that balances your blood sugar so it doesn't lead to insulin resistance. But I think a lot of people get scared of eating any carbohydrate that gets too, because a lot of athletes that get into the low carb world, they are so, type A and do everything they read, but they don't personalize it and realize, oh, I do need a little bit more fuel and I am kind of feeling sluggish and that workout wasn't so good today. Oh, I was higher heart rate. I'm burning more muscle glycogen. Doesn't that mean I should refuel or eat something beforehand? So I think it's, matching your fueling with your training is what I talk a lot about, and figuring that out for that individual. Because if you are doing a higher intensity speed key workout, would you have, as a coach for you, would you have athletes eat something beforehand and, figure out their nutrition and all? Do you work on that with them, or have that in your probably blogs, how to coach people with nutrition, and then putting protein in afterwards? Is it 3 hours, 30 minutes? All that I think people forget about to help recovery.
Yeah. I just try to emphasize not being afraid of food.
Yeah.
And anything that's super extreme or restrictive will have a short-term benefit, but there's going to be you're going to pay the price somewhere along the way. And so, and again, this also goes back to, guys and gals' bodies are a little bit different. So, a male athlete can do in general a little bit better on a super low carbohydrate diet, like a keto diet, than women seem to do. And so women, especially after menopause, need a little bit of carbohydrate to actually train well. But I don't care who you are. If you're a human being and you're not getting carbohydrate, if you're training at a snail's pace, you might feel okay. But if you're actually trying to improve your fitness and put a little of intensity into it, you're probably going to feel kind of lousy a lot of the time. And there's so many athletes that I've coached who go, I'm going to go on a keto diet so that my body gets good at burning fat. I'm like, okay, well, let me know how you feel. All right. And so, they go through the tough phase in the beginning, and till they get used to it. But then when they start to look at it in the bigger picture, they realize they haven't felt good in training since they started restricting the carbohydrate. And so, it's like you said, it has to match your output level first and foremost. And so if you're not training much, you're not going to need a lot of calories and you won't need as many carbohydrates. If you're training a ton, fat burns in the flame of carbohydrate. And so even if you're doing a purely fat burning workout, you're still needing carbohydrate to fuel that fat breakdown process for energy. And so, that's just basic physiology stuff. And of course, the human body it's designed to be able to survive extreme situations, right? So back in ancient times, maybe there were times where people didn't have carbohydrate. Maybe like in the winter when there's snow on the ground, the only thing you have is a moose.
Yeah.
Your body can manage and figure it out and metabolize and go into ketosis, and you're going to be okay. But in general, extremes come with a price.
Yeah, it's cycling in and out. People are not athletes. That example of winter versus summer, summer, you have berries, you have different foods available than in wintertime when you don't have any fresh food growing on the ground. So yeah, it totally makes sense when you look at ancestral perspective of what to eat, when, why, and how. But for the athletes, that's what I try to do in this show, because there's so much information out there for people trying to do fasting, trying to do keto, carnivore, whatever things hot, and really go, okay, that's not for the person doing at least 1-2 workouts a day. A lot of athletes might be doing, some days I do 3. If I, go lift in the morning or bike ride in the morning, then I swim masters at lunchtime, then I go lift weights at nighttime, or go for a walk, or, do something, yoga. And most people don't do anything. So the guidelines out there are not for endurance athletes or triathletes that are doing a lot of activity. So I always try to, okay, take that information and let's put it in for you, the endurance athletes. I mean, a little different.
Yeah.
So key.
And, and let's go to the other extreme. Somebody who's maybe not athletic, who's heavy, they've become very insulin resistant because their body, they've had excess body fat for many years and they're not exercising. They might need to go pretty restrictive initially to get their body sensitive to insulin again. They've got to take the load off of their body from trying to metabolize carbohydrate, and they can't do it anymore. And so they just, no matter how much they exercise, they're not going to lose weight. Like I have a gentleman that I coach who he's pretty heavy. He's a big guy. And he ended up doing, he wanted to train for an Ironman. He ended up doing Ironman Boulder, doing big miles, doing everything right. And he didn't lose an ounce.
Which is why I do what I do, by the way.
Yeah. And then finally, a couple of years after he went through his triathlon journey, he connected with a guy who is very similar to what you're talking about. And initially, the guy said, okay, you've got to really restrict the carbohydrate to get your body sensitive to insulin again. And we're not going to have you doing any kind of pure aerobic stuff. We're going to have you doing strength training. Because as you strength train, your body, your whole metabolic rate is going to go up, because it takes a huge amount of energy to repair broken down muscle. And, when you do strength training, that breaks down muscle. And so all of a sudden his metabolism was going way up because he was doing a very structured strength training for his workouts. He restricted the carbohydrates initially quite a bit. And all of a sudden he's like shedding weight, and now he looks phenomenal. He's healthy, and he's gradually added back, as his body has changed the carbohydrate so that it's matching his current state and current needs. So
yeah, I think I always say why I do what I do is when I started Ironman's 2001 and started going to Hawaii in 2000 and marathons before that you see all these people at the races going, okay, why are people overweight? Why are they not losing weight? And how I used to say, I would do, Ironmans every year and train all year, and I wouldn't lose any weight. Your body would get used to it too. But I think, even at this trail run, which is Paris, Texas last weekend, I was in Dallas on Sunday. Didn't realize the race was there. Anyways, I saw these people doing a 50K trail run and a 100K trail run. They were not lean and strong. You think, oh, how many calories am I burning? That doesn't equal how much fat you lose training for those. So that's why I got into, I think, nutritional therapy and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, where I do functional lab testing assessment. Now I'm putting it to a personalized program, because so many athletes just do the training and don't do what I call the holistic method, working on the whole person. So going back to what you're saying with their training program, and looking at recovery, do you measure heart rate variability and getting into sleep data? Like I wear an Oura ring and track my deep sleep and REM and make sure my readiness, heart rate variability. Do you do any of those metrics, or do they put that into TriDot?
If people want to, yeah, for sure. And I think the use and guidelines of how to use HRV it's in its initial stages. I think it'll get even better and more refined as time goes on, and we see, because again, there's a lot of variability in heart rate variability, and a lot of it is sort of kind of what is normal for you. So somebody might have a normal heart rate variability for them, but it's only normal in the sense that maybe they're constantly overtrained, and so that looks like they're normal. that looks like they're normal. And so when they go even lower than that, then they're like right on the edge, And so anyway, it is good. And it's interesting too, because I have there's a gentleman that I coach that for decades, he gets 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night and he's fine. And for me, I need 9 to 10, right? And so we started measuring his sleep patterns and heart rate variability and amount of time in deep sleep where he's actually recovering. And basically what it turns out is like the dude is probably the most efficient sleeper on the planet, because in his 5 or 6 hours, he gets easily as much high quality sleep as I get in my 9 or 10. So even though I need 9 or 10 to feel good, it's just because I'm not a very efficient sleeper. And I sleep fine. I'm asleep, but I don't. So anyway, there's so many.
The percentage of deep sleep.
There's such individual variation. So it's good to have some of that tracking just to see where you're at and give yourself a reality check from time to time, even if it's not something you do every single night and you don't want to be a slave to it. Maybe some people do, some people don't, but yeah, super good information.
And then I've just, all the athletes have been on the carb, more carbs and doing what we were taught to do with the drink mixes and, all the liquid calories every hour and all the stuff that I used to try to do. And I end up getting sick because I was trying to do too many calories and too much fuel in every hour. Didn't work for me, but would be interesting to see study of how many endurance athletes have high insulin levels in their A1C and look at that. If they are kind of the standard American endurance athlete diet, eating the ton of the processed foods and the carbohydrates and the bars and the gels and all that, I wonder how insulin resistance people are. Plus with stress, and stress it raises your glucose, which will give you insulin resistance as well as the end result. But it's my frustration lately is getting your comprehensive blood chemistry covered by insurance with your doctor. They don't do insulin. And I was trying to get my doctor to do it. Like, well, you don't have any history of diabetes. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to have it. So test my insulin. And I looked it up in Ulta Labs. You can do it yourself for $25. So I don't know why we're not more preventative with our medical system, but I think athletes, especially if you want to be what I always say, fit and healthy from the inside out, have to take their own health into their own hands, take that ownership and get labs ordered from your doctor as much as you can. Then look at Direct Labs or Ulta Labs, where you can just go to LabCorp, Quest and get these numbers, because my numbers are higher and I wonder how long they were high. You don't know unless you test. So you don't know what you don't know.
I've been working with Inside Tracker this year.
Yeah, me too.
And that's super interesting for me because they measure 40 some different markers in your blood. And, if some things in the first test that I took, most things were normal, but there were a few things that were off, and they gave very specific recommendations on what I could do to correct those, to bring things back down into the normal range. And also what's super cool was that, since you've worked with them, they have a thing called your inner age. So as opposed to your chronological age. And I thought, well, heck, I exercise right. I eat really well. I get sleep. I try to moderate my stress, blah, blah, blah. And so, I went over to inner age after I got the first blood test, and it goes, congratulations, you are younger than your chronological age by 4 months. 4 months. I'm like,
so I'm scared. I haven't taken that test.
I'm like, what? With all the things that I do, how can I only be 4 months younger than like every other guy out there who's, 64 years old? And so they said, no, that's actually really pretty good for your first test. And so anyway, I went through all of the recommendations that they had on the things that needed improvement. I also have been working with a company called Tennant Products, and they make a lot of different nutraceutical products and things that really help you recover and rebuild yourself on a very cellular level. And so I was taking their products to help recover, not only my body, but also to kind of get my brain to just like function really smoothly. 6 months after that first test, doing these just simple things, got the second results, and I was now 6 years younger than my chronological age.
Wow. That's
6
a huge
years.
success story.
Yeah, 6 years and 6 months in 6 months. And so that for me was just like a dramatic example
I'm
of,
sold.
well, and the thing that's really interesting for me was that I feel like I'm obviously pretty healthy, and nothing that I had was showing up clinically at this point in time as far as disease or, heavy duty illness or anything like that. However, if I had not done this and done these things to correct the things that were, kind of out of the range, I wouldn't have known until I, God forbid, had a heart attack or, got that, whatever it is. And so that's why I think it's, as you just said, it's super important for people to take charge of their own health, to really look under the hood, not just how many miles can you run on your long run, but what's going on physiologically in your body, and where can you improve those weak links. And it's so easy to do. That was what was amazing for me.
And it's not that expensive. And I always laughed for years, focusing on more a practitioner into my health coaching with combining it with fitness and nutrition coaching, is that people rather drop $10,000 on a bike or wheels. But if you say, okay, you need to spend $2,000 on lab tests or $500, oh my God, no, I can't afford that. I'm like, well, if you need a new bike, how would you pay for that? It's so funny how just athletes just think about, their equipment, but don't think about what I always say this year is training your future self. Train for now, but how do you want to be living your life when you're 60, 70, 80 years old? As I just lost my dad in June, I was looking like, hey, Hughes, look at people in the hospital. It's like, I don't want to be living like that at 80 and not be able to walk and, have back pain and then have all this digestion stuff going on. And it's like so preventative what we're doing now for our bodies. And I think that's why I strive to show that being a fit and healthy athlete, performing your best in life now and in your future life, that is so essential to doing what we're doing every year, every day, is to, do the testing quarterly. You don't know what's going on unless you test. So you could feel good, but like you said earlier, your normal of feeling good could be like quarter of what you could be, your full potential. You're not quite living your life to your fullest that you could do if you did a couple things. So that's a great example. Okay. So we're running out of time. As always, I do just sit here and talk to everyone, but the tips for people to get started to work on maybe some performance races for end of this season coming up soon. But so if we're looking at next year, they want to do a race, maybe they want to do Olympic distance races that I might do finally next year. What would you suggest them doing, how to get started if they want to coach with you?
Well, you can go to TriDot and sign up as and have me as your coach. We're going to be launching the Mark Allen edition in TriDot probably in the next 2 weeks, sometime right before Kona. And in that, you get all of the training that TriDot has, which is super customized for your situation, who you are, where you're at, based on assessments that you do. And then there's just tons of video content that we've been recording over the last 6 months that will go into each one of your days training. So, there's showing you how to do proper strength training and core exercises and functional moves and different tips and drills so that you become more efficient at swimming, cycling, and running, and really explaining a lot of the philosophies behind the different types of workouts that you'll get from me. And so you check that out. That's going to launch. That's a great entry point for anybody who wants to get going. It's the Mark Allen edition in TriDot. And, it's a low commitment in a sense on your part, but it will just propel you from, ground zero up to full speed, so efficiently. It'll help you sort of circumvent all the pitfalls that a lot of triathletes make, or a lot of athletes make, who are trying to figure it out on their own. And you don't have to think. You just have to show up, look, see what you do, and do it. And it's such a great it's a great tool and a great program that we put together. We've been working on that this whole year, and then with the content, like I said, for the last 6 months or so.
I'm laughing. Did you repurpose any of the videos, exercises we did 2012, 10 years ago? We did all those exercises with Aaron Carson at Rally Sport. Those went in the archives.
We didn't use those, but not in TriDot anyway.
That's funny. So people can get started. Good time to work on their base training in the winter and strength training and work on that off season. I think it's so important. I think because I know some people doing Hanu half Ironman is June, that they're thinking they don't need to start till later, but this is the time to start. Work on your base training, work on techniques, swimming drills, because swimming's usually most people's area of opportunity, and really getting that strength training in off season where you can really build stability, the core muscles, and get all that lower heart rate outside training and fresh air. So I think it's a good time to look into that. Do you have like a private group page you'll do for TriDot with your people that you're coaching, like a monthly Q&A with Mark on a private page?
Yeah, we're going to be doing kind of like a regular, we've actually been doing it kind of just like an ask me anything type of thing about once a month. So
on the TriDot website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we stream it live through their Facebook. But anyway, there's always announcements on that when I'll be going on. And TriDot's really good as far as continually putting out podcasts and information, and really just helping the athletes sort of continually be better and better educated on training and equipment and, community and just all sorts of stuff. So really good.
I've been following their emails and then talking to them about their program a little bit. So, cause I'm doing all the other stuff. So if someone can write the program for them and then I'll do the other, that's great, because I can't, it's so hard to do all of it. So you need someone to write their training program and then someone else to do the exercise strength and their nutrition and their sleep and stress and lab testing. So that's great. Okay. And what other races? We got Ironman Hawaii. Do you have more stuff committed for the next year yet? Or are you just done, kind of get some off season time?
Just going to make it through Kona and then take it from there. I'll probably end up at St. George for 70.3 Worlds just because it's so close.
That's in November. When is that? November?
I think it's the last weekend in October. So
okay.
I think it's 3 weeks after Kona, which is so close. But
yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people doing both.
There probably are a few crazy people doing both. Yeah.
I would say that I started traveling to Europe, except for the last 3 years, when I stopped doing racing. How much money you spend on racing? You could go to Europe 3 times a year for the amount of money races cost nowadays, and all the travel fees and hotels and everything. It's an expensive sport these days from when I started way back when. So
yeah, it can be expensive, but I think, the most important thing about the sport is really seeing what it is that you're getting out of it, and what the real goal that you hopefully are getting out of doing triathlons or just the training is that you feel better. It reduces stress. It provides you with an opportunity to just let go of your problems for that time when you're out there training.
Yeah,
and
it's therapy.
Yeah, it's your therapy. And I know how it was for me. Like, I could be having a really lousy day, and then I know that I'm meeting my training partners for a run or a bike or whatever. And right away, when you're with them, it's like, oh yeah, you forget about your problems. I mean, they're there, that they'll be there when you get home, but you just get this break, know, and
pause from life.
Yeah. It's such a positive.
Yeah, that's good. I know. Well, if you ever come down at North San Diego, I see Bob Babbitt at Fletcher's Cove every now and then. And you've got Scott Tinley, I think, is the one at the Bay Club where I work out. And then, my friend Renee and Jeff Milton. And so all these other ex-triathletes live down here. It seems to be the popular hub to retire triathlon career or keep at it.
The ones that never left.
Yeah. The ones that stayed down here for 30 years. So yeah, I hope to see you on Ironman Live TV in Kona, but I will be there for Lava Man. I'll be helping with the race in March in Kona. So that's my contribution to the triathlon industry. So thanks, Mark, for your time today. And we'll put everything in the show notes. Any links we didn't talk about, we'll put it in there, and people can check out TriDot with Mark Allen.
Awesome. Thanks, Debbie. Great to
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.